Hello, friends. My name is Steve, and we're here today for the Friday Conversation, episode 75, with some friends. Joe, do you want to kick us off with some introductions, please?
I'm Joe, JCM Berne. I'm the author of Hybrid Helix. My website is jcmberne.com. My YouTube is at JCM Berne.
You've been working on that intro, haven't you?
Just had a cover reveal for my book 4, and it's very exciting. Patrick Leo posted it. I was like, woo, I made the big time. I was like right after like an Orbit release. I was like, woohoo. So glad to be here.
Nice. Thomas?
Thomas J. Devens, author of the Fall of Emerald Saga, and I don't have any of my internet stuff memorized, so that's enough.
And Varsha?
Sorry, that took a while to unmute my mic. I'm Varsha. I have a YouTube channel called Reading by the Rainy Mountain where I talk about the books I love. And I recently started a new series on the channel, also as a podcast called Bright Threads on the Tapestry that I'm super excited about.
Nice. Very nice. Very busy. And Layla?
I'm Layla Goshi. My main project probably is the Balladine magazine site. I also write poetry and short stories and essays, and I think that's about all for now.
And Dan?
Yeah, my name is Dan. I am an author of all my kids' sick notes that go to school. I've gotten a few stars on them when the teacher returns them.
Perfection.
I got some stars. They thought I really, gave them an excellent excuse as to why I kept them out of school. And, I have a channel called the Black and Blue Collar Reader. You can find me on YouTube. I'm in the Twitter sphere, but, it's not the best place in the world to go hang out every now and again. And I have Goodreads, but I don't even know what my name is under there. Look for me. Type in the Black and Blue Collar Reader. You might find me.
I'm feeling a little bit inadequate in the beard department because Thomas and Dan are both have the full Monty there.
I'm really going for the twist now. My wife really doesn't want me to do it. She has told me I can't do it, but I told her now that I haven't been to work for three years, and I think I'm going to work on the handlebars here. So if I'm doing this, I'm just sculpting, okay?
Are you going to tie somebody to railroad tracks? Is that what it is? That you just?
Yeah, no, I wanted to twist. When the bad guy's just yeah, and he's I want a nice curve. I really want a big one. See how it gets. I gotta make. I'm not the most grooming type of gentleman, so I really need to stay on it.
Yes.
Thomas? Sorry.
Are you going for the twirly, the little?
No, I don't do anything with it. It's just there. I wash
up one morning. You're right.
I was growing mine out. I had a good COVID beard, and my wife made me choose between the beard and her. And I'm still thinking about it. But I trimmed for the short term at least.
Wait, so your wife wants you to keep it, or she wants you to get rid of it?
Rid of it, or yeah, it was either my beard. I could keep the long beard, or I could keep her. I had to choose one.
Oh.
And for the short term, at least, I cut the beard. I'm like, all right, divorce is complicated and expensive, and I just, I can trim the beard.
Yeah, my situation's totally opposite. If I shaved my beard tomorrow, I would be homeless and in the gutters. She'd be like, come back when it grows back. She hasn't even seen the man that is under this, ever. We've been together 6 years and she's never seen what's under this.
I went to high school with my wife. I couldn't grow a beard when I met her.
So is it easier? Which is easier, having a beard or which is, or not, or I guess shaving every day would be harder or more work, but.
Yeah, so there's this Simpson episode where, Homer finally shaves his face, and he's looking at the mirror, and he gets all clean shaven, and he puts it down, and he looks back up at the mirror, and it's all back. His whole, 5 o'clock shadow just comes right back in, and he looks like normal Homer. That's kind of the way it is. It's just so much easier to let it go,
Feels like it's more trouble to have one because you have to get it trimmed and you have to take care of it and it gets dry and it's just kind of a
You
pain.
don't have to.
You have to, I guess.
I wash it with regular soap, and my wife will trim it every now and again for me. So the only problem is this up here, like when it tickles my nose. Like I could be having a conversation with somebody, and I'll just be like, "What the fuck?" Yeah, it's like these are long hairs, so it gets up there, man. It'll like tickle my brain, and it's bad.
Sometimes you'll get that rogue mustache hair that goes up and just kind of like weaves in with your nose hair or something.
They like connect, like vines. And then sometimes you're like talking to somebody in person, and you do have like a rogue hair that'll just be over here, not with everybody else. He's like the outcast, and you're talking, and the person, you can see they're just staring at that rogue hair, and it's bothering them. So you want to make sure that you're in the mirror looking for rogue hairs, so people's attention are on what you're saying, not what your rogue hair is doing.
The world's worst action novel, like Rogue. Guy in the mirror with scissors, I'll get you.
Uh-oh.
Sorry.
Your wife heard you.
Hey, I recognize that song.
She did. What?
It sounds like a good song.
My husband's growing out his beard recently, and I've heard him complain about all these things.
Tell him he's not alone. Definitely not alone.
We noticed, until he didn't have a beard, we didn't really notice how many bearded men there were. Now it seems like the ratio of bearded men to not is much higher than I thought. Everywhere I'm noticing beards.
It's the in thing.
Yeah, and you mentioned, I think Joe mentioned COVID. I wonder if COVID had an impact in a way on that. And maybe changing work, just changing work style in general.
I had a closet guy come to set up our closets, like in California Closet, or a girl, and they're like, "Oh, we don't sell tie racks anymore." They have like the built-in tie rack that slides out, but people don't wear ties because everyone was home for so long, and then when they're going back to work, except in very select industries, everyone's dressing down. They're like, "We wore sweats for 2 years. We'll put a shirt on, but we're not wearing ties." So it's changed the fashion industry like in a semi-permanent way. I mean, I'm sure in banking you get people in suits, but like there's that whole middle area of the formality where it's not the same as it was. So
There's a lot more casual, like, what do they call it? Business casual
yeah.
type
Yeah,
stuff.
well, you got women wearing like yoga pants and saying it's formal outfits. So, not that I mind. I'm all for yoga pants.
But I remember when I worked in banking way long ago, they would send us home if we did not have, even if we were wearing slacks, but if we didn't have stockings with our shoes, like we just had put our bare feet into loafers or something, they'd send us home to put socks on. It was pretty strict. It was Dallas, Texas. It was pretty strict.
Who can concentrate on their naked ankles just dangling all in the office?
It was wild.
Dangerous work environment.
I can see that in Texas. Once you said it was in Texas, I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It has changed a lot, though. I think attitudes have changed, and people are going back to work now because they're realizing that you can't just like, you know. But it's kind of strange how much the world is, especially business and like, you know, casual wear, working from home versus the office. I think some companies are figuring out they can not have to pay for an office space. They can have the same work done remotely.
Yeah, my office was just sold, like after 3 years of us coming, working from home after COVID, and now they just closed our office down completely. Everybody is remote, and I'm dying. I can't. I need to go out,
So you miss the workplace?
So yeah, I miss conversation. You guys see how excited I get now that I'm on here? Like, I'm like telling you guys about rogue nose hairs and stuff. It's because I sit here all day and I just email people, and I got my family and things like that, but there's no, dialogue from work. I yell at my dogs all day, because at least I know when the mailman's here. But, like, I don't get to talk to people anymore. And I think it's taken an effect on, those, my verbal skills, to be honest, because I just sit there and type everything out. And I was like, hey, I've been typing everything out for 2 years. Why don't I start a YouTube channel where I have to actually speak eloquently? And, it's not where I'm like, where are the words? Where are the words I used to use? Like, maybe I'm getting older, but I'm just like, where I know this word. I know it's a counter. It's on the counter, love. And, it is taking its toll. Me only communicating with the majority of people via email. Okay, Iggy, come here. Come here, bud.
You can always go the AI route.
Nobody but a shadow out there, bud.
Oh, how great. What's
Yeah,
Iggy
that
Smalls.
is Iggy Smalls, the eldest. His name is getting a little big. His name is Piggy Smalls now, so we're gonna change it. I was gonna do all band names. So my first dog is Jackson Brown, and this is Iggy Smalls. But I was gonna do like Iggy Pop, do Iggy Poops, but I didn't think that would work out. I think people would have missed that.
Yeah. And Joe, you had a reading last night on Leslie's channel, The Energy Narrative. How did that go?
Oh, I didn't listen to it, so nothing bad happened, I guess. I read, she wanted me to read a chapter from Wistful Ascending and then a chapter from my new unreleased book. And I was like, okay. She did it with John Palladino a few months ago. I forget when. It was not that long ago, like a few months ago.
Yeah, it's a few weeks back.
Yeah, she really loved the Trials of Ashmount, and they did that. And I haven't read it yet, so I didn't listen to it because I didn't want to spoil it for myself. But she asked me to do it. I'm like, yeah, I'll do anything. I'm always happy to go on a live stream and do something. But I had never read any of it out loud before. It's my first time, so it's weird trying to do the female voices. I'm like, okay, how what do you do with your voice? Like I can't make myself sound like a woman, So do you just read it like totally normal? Do you try to do something with your voice to convey that it's not? But the good part is like I can deliver sarcasm, and there's a lot of sarcasm in the book. So like I had no trouble with the deadpanning, the sarcastic stuff like that. I can do, which is why I write them. But it was neat, and I've gotten some bizarre, not bizarre, but definitely some positive feedback. People are like, oh, I really enjoyed that. I'm like, if you okay, I don't know why, but I'm glad. Great.
Which channel? Which channel?
Leslie's The Nerdy Narrative.
Oh, okay.
Her real name is Leslie with a Z. I think that's her real name. That's what she goes by on social media. So she read Wistful Ascending a while ago. She's not read the others, but she and I have communicated many times on social media. So we're buddies, But it's actually our first time talking to each other. But I know she's watched my channel. She's left comments on videos, and she's just a buddy. And she's like, "Oh, yeah, I'm interested in trying this marketing thing." I'm like, "I'll go." Hey, all right. So yeah, so we did a reading, and I'm like, "That's an author thing to do, right? You go and you read a selection of your book at a bookstore for a crowd." I'm like, "This is the same thing. It's just not for it's just for an online crowd."
Yeah.
It was kind of fun, and we got to chat, and got to say, "Oh, you should read the next two." Give her a little elbow, and I had a cover reveal around the same time, so I got people like watching for both. So it was good. It was it's not. I'm not looking to give up, and become a narrator.
It's
Right.
tough.
That's the yeah. Part of me is like, there's a wine closet right there that we don't really use. I'm like, oh, I should turn that into an audio booth. Like put in like deadening curtains around, and I could do my own audio. And then I'm like, no. Luckily, I don't think my wife would let me. But,
Luckily.
yeah, because I would do it, and then I'd be stuck in there like recording stuff, and it's not how I want to spend my time. So.
Did you do a reading, Thomas? I know you had a book launch in your town.
I did. Back when the second book came out, my friends own a comic book shop up here, so they just had they threw an event for me, and I did a reading there.
What's the shop?
World's End Comics.
Cool. I can go there.
Yep.
I'm not that far from you.
Right in Uptown Kingston.
Yeah. World's End. Cool. Very nice. Thomas and I live we realized before the stream started that we live close to one another, geographically.
Oh,
I can actually drive up there and check out the comics.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It's not a flight. That is cool.
So we're probably representing both coasts, because Varsha's on the West Coast, right? Is Pennsylvania, would we consider that the East Coast, or?
Oh yeah, where I am, Philadelphia is
It's considered East Coast.
Hmm.
And then
Yeah, I'm
Steve-
like a couple 20 minutes away from where
Oh, okay.
I in Jersey.
So we have 4 time zones covered.
we do. I think we do. So I'm Mountain.
Yeah, I don't think we have anybody in the middle. Oh wait, Layla, are you in the middle?
Central, yeah.
Central, all right.
Is anybody in Mountain?
I'm a Mountain. Yeah.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Albuquerque.
We're all 4 time zones. It's pretty neat.
Yeah. That's actually unusual considering some of our talks where somebody's in India and
Yeah.
somebody's in Ireland. And,
I was in a writing group where we had people from all over. There are people from Japan and Australia and Great Britain and the U.S. and the East Coast. And finding times where we could all reasonably be awake and doing a podcast together was really hard. It was I was getting up at 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. to get on the stream, and someone else was go to bed late to get on the same stream, And luckily the server fell apart, and we don't have to worry about it.
Luckily. That's what you said. Nice.
I was just surprised that Discord server I was associated with completely fell apart. It wasn't my fault. I was shocked. I didn't do it. I'm amazed. But politics, stuff happens.
I can't do Discord. I don't know. I respect those of you who can. It's too much. It's too much stuff.
It's such a time sink. I'm on too many of them. But it's really good for new writers. You get to meet people who you can ask a question about how to format a book, and I'm having this trouble getting the chapter headings to align right, and someone's going to answer. Someone's going to be oh, I know the platform you're using. I can help you with that. And that's an incredible resource to have. I mean, I'm sure there are other places where you can get that, but the only one that I know of that's really reliable, where you get something quick, is Discord. So I definitely suggest it for anyone who wants to break into that thing, which...
I keep joining Discord groups, and then I don't have time to follow up, but Yeah, I might ask you about that one. Hopefully. Yeah.
Collecting servers.
Huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
You-
usually jump on the Discords after I read a book. I actually started my own Discord with a couple booktubers of 2023. And it's usually when I finish a book is when I'll get out there on Discord, like, oh, this was great, let's talk about it. And I'll get like 2.5 comments, and that'll be it. And the conversation will be over that, or I'll make a comment that everybody responds to. And you wake up and there's like 72 responses because you haven't gone on in 3 days, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just can't do it. But no, you were really crazy about Blood Meridian, right, Jan? You still going to reread that one, or you still reeling from that?
Yeah. So it's been off the skull for a little while now. Like, it's kind of, seeped away. But you still I'll run into, things, because I went so hard on looking up videos after I finished that book. I still get older videos that I haven't seen come up about Blood Meridian, and for me, it's more of a character study of the judge. Like, I want to hear what you guys think about this character, and basically, I want to hear what your reasons are, because McCarthy never told us as to why he wrote this book. What was his intent? And I think you can read that book 4 times over and come up with 4 different reasons why he might have written this story. And it's I'll still go in YouTube and type in Judge's dialogue. There's a few of these videos that are really synced up with the words, and it was the Comanche attack. Has everybody read this?
No.
No?
No, yeah.
So there's a Comanche scene, and when you finally get to that scene, because this was my first McCarthy book, when you finally get to that scene, you're like, oh, this is what everybody's been talking about. This is his brilliance right here. This writing, this unformatted, unstructured writing. This is absolutely brilliant. And there are definitely a few other scenes within that. Everything the judge said is still, I just can't stop thinking about.
Maybe we should put on the schedule to read as a group.
Yeah.
That's one on the list that's been sitting on the list for probably years. So yeah, it'd be worth reading. Sounds like it's worth.
Yeah, it's just, his artistic style, and the fact that, he doesn't use quotation marks or punctuation or too many periods, like, that interests me because, I'm a music fan, and I think growing up we all kind of really liked the people who broke the mold, who this is what you're supposed to be. So I'm not a pop person. Popular pop, like you got a nice hook and you go back, like, give me somebody that's just gonna go right, take structure and flush it down the toilet and do something different. And, I feel McCarthy's writing was like that. It's an art form, and he took the old mold and was like, screw this old mold, I'm gonna do something different. People liked it. Most writers would have been like, who is this guy coming in here like this, not putting in commas and periods? Who is this guy? But, you can't deny the words on the paper when you read them.
There's just that, like, sweet spot, I guess, where if another person did it would just flop, but I mean, because I'm thinking of another book, 2 books I've recently read. One, I've got it right here, Moon Witch, Spider King, Has anyone heard of that? And the first book, I forget, is, I'll remember it, but it's written like in a dialect. I think it's in a Caribbean dialect, if I've got it right. And the first book, I had a hard time. I did finish the book, but this one is much better, and it's like the author hit his stride, with the second book, and now it makes perfect sense. And I can see why everyone is saying so many great things about it. But again, not every book written in a dialect, or, I'll just say dialect, is going to be approachable for everyone. So
Creole, right? Is that the word?
Pull it off.
Creole.
Huh?
It's a Creole, right? I think that's the word.
Yeah.
Does it? Where did you say it took place? The setting of the story?
It's kind of it's a fantasy. So,
Okay.
Yeah. Trying to remember. It's got its own map.
There are these writing rules, and it's really interesting because people will argue about them to no end. Like don't use second person. Don't use present tense. Don't use passive voice. Don't use don't write in dialect. Don't write out someone's accents. Don't phonetically write out an accent in your dialogue. Use correct punctuation. And there are all these rules. And the beauty of it is, if you're good enough, you can break them, and it'll be great if you're good, right? If you're really good. Most of us aren't. So I just read something from someone who wrote in second person, and I'm like, you can do that, but I wouldn't, And it's like, and the comeback is always something like, well, N.K. Jemisin did it, and I'm like, neither of us are N.K. Jemisin. Like, I'm sorry, you're not doing it for enough of a reason with enough skill. Maybe you can, but I know I couldn't, and like, I don't know, you make your call. But you watch these rules aren't really rules. I don't know the right word for it. But like, if you don't have a really good reason to break them, don't. But then if you have a good reason, you can get these wonderful products if you're really good. So I hear. I'm not.
I agree, and I think maybe the right editor sometimes can help kick that into a different level. But it does start with the writer, though. I mean, the writer has to come with the basics. But I just looked at this. It says it's an African fantasy novel.
Okay.
So, an unnamed African country.
So one of the rules is to not write in present tense? Is that one of the rules?
That's a much softer rule than the others, but it will be suggested that if you're writing for an adult audience, you should not. YA is different. YA is much more often in present tense, but if you read most adult-oriented genre fiction, it's mostly past tense. It's mostly third or first, and first, it's only one first. Right, so you're writing first person, like I did this and I did that. It's very unusual to have multiple first persons in a book. People do it. Some people do it really well, but it's hard. Because as readers, you're kind of trained a certain way. And I think older readers, I think this is why it's a YA thing. Older readers are trained. I still have a hard time with past tense. What Matt Wallace, a Savage Legion series, was present tense, throws me off. I put the book down, I come back, and I'm like, oh, I don't like this. I mean, I get over it. It's a great book. They're great books, but I don't like it. I don't like second person. But yeah, because if you came to me and you're like, I'm going to write a book for grown-ups, a fantasy novel, I'm going to say third person or first person. If you're doing POVs, don't do more than 4. I'm going to say, past tense. And because that's what's going to work unless you are so good you can pull off violating them, which some people are.
You know what? Writing in second person, like with when you use the word you, like if you're saying you went, you should go to the park with me type of thing or whatever, I don't know. But that is such a natural fallback for people because I teach writing, and I would say I actually, in my course now, I have a little, 3-line piece of advice on doing that. And it's just like I frequently on rough drafts am putting that little statement on there, about do not use second person, because it can confuse the reader, and it can kind of confuse the situation in general. But
Grow up first.
But I still see it in fiction, and it's not always bad, but it's better not. I think it's clearer to understand what's going on.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to pull off. People can do it, and they can get great results. But again, that default has to be don't do it until you need it.
Yeah.
That's my take. No one needs to listen to me. That's just my take.
Do you think you could write a bad book or write poorly by rigidly adhering to rules also? Like you want to do something, but the rules say to do otherwise, and now you're not really doing what you want, so you're not writing well. Does that happen, do you think?
Using the wrong rules.
Yeah.
Passive voice is a nice example because there are places where using passive voice can help your writing. Like if you're in a situation where you want to kind of calm the action down and make everything seem like an ebb and flow, like you've had a lot of stuff and then you want to really like you want a low slow point. Deliberately using passive voice is a tool people use that can work well. So if you listen to me, you're going to abandon this potentially useful tool. I certainly use it on occasion, but usually by accident. I would like to say it's for a purpose, to manipulate your emotions, but I usually just screw up. I just caught one today. I was editing right before this. But it depends how extensive your rules are, right? I'm sure if you came up with enough, I knew a guy who would insist that characters are the only thing that mattered, and if you go by that rule, you're going to leave a lot on the table. Because his plots never made sense, because he kept saying, it doesn't matter, all that matters is the characters. And I'm like, not to every reader, and it would bug me, because then his plots didn't make sense. And, that's another thing, is everything's relative to who your readers are. Just not everything, but a lot of it is.
Yeah. I don't think there's ever any hard and fast rule. It's just once you know them, it's really up to a writer's instinct. I've had people tell me, throw this out and start over. In fact, I did have that happen. I had somebody tell me about this essay, throw it out and start over, and I'm like, well, I really like the way I did it, so I sent it off anyway, and it got published. I see that, and the editor was a good editor. So what I think is that there comes a point where if that's really what you're trying to say and the way you're trying to say it, just go with it. If it gets published and nobody reads it, okay, fine. But there's a creative. It's about creative expression too. Sometimes. So so I think every situation's different.
Thomas, do you have any rules that you set for yourself?
I have preferences, and I try to follow those basic rules, but I definitely don't all the time. It just happens. I know I definitely write in the passive voice at times. It just comes up. Sometimes it seems like it works. Sometimes it seems like it just fits something better, so I let it slide sometimes. But as far as the second person narrative or anything like that, their point of view, that's just not my preference, so I try to avoid that. But there is the occasional you that slips in, and you gotta go and find all those, because once you get typing, just whatever comes out.
Yeah.
Then you end up on a 100,000 word document searching for every time the word you comes up.
I've done that so hard. I have a really good line editor, and she costs an arm and a leg, but she catches every one of those stupid things. And every time, like, what was I doing? I was having like all the docs on my space station, or like a letter and a number, like A23, B6, right? None of it means anything, but you need something. And some places I was putting a dash in between, and some places I just didn't. And I'm like, I never caught it. She's like, in 4 books, you've done it this way this many times, and this. And I'm like, oh, I really need to, I need to pick. Like, it doesn't matter, but you can't just go back and forth unless there's a reason.
So can you guys provide me with an example?
Of what?
Talk to me like I'm me, an idiot. What's a passive?
I'm sorry.
And what is the you that you're discussing is right? What is a passive voice?
Well, for example, with the you, like, and I'll hear this from students. They'll say they're talking about, say, a history project, and oh, you should have been there when Napoleon, did such and such. Well, that doesn't really make any sense. I mean, why would the average person, their audience, why should they have been there? When what they're really trying to say is Napoleon did this, amazing, crazy, or whatever thing. So just go ahead and say that. But to tell an audience member you should have been there, I mean, it doesn't make sense. It's just like extra words added in instead of directly saying what you want to say. Napoleon was whatever. Yeah. So, and then passive.
Yeah, so I have been, there's a story bouncing up around in here.
Mhm.
And I never took a writing class. I'm not, an English major. I was a sociology major in college, but, I'm starting to read a lot. And, I see PL, he published one at 50. And I just feel like, that there's a lot that I have to do before I start writing this down. But everybody tells me just freaking write it down. You'll go over it. I guess Philip Chase, it took him 10 to 20 years with his story that he's putting out. So
Yeah, the most important thing is the idea. Once you have your idea, you can keep building around it and redoing it, get some input from an encouraging, supportive person.
But something like the use and the passive voice, you can write your whole book and then just fix that. And it's not going to take you like a year. It's going to take you like a weekend. And that weekend might suck, but that's really all you're looking at. And you're going to have to fix things. I got to tell you, Dan, one thing I tell any writer, your first draft is going to suck.
I already know.
Please understand. I don't mean anything personal. I tell it to anyone. You write a book, that first draft, unless you're some kind of weird genius. Maybe you are. Maybe I'm wrong, right? But almost no one, their first draft looks good. There's just so much to learn. But you can take that first draft and potentially hammer it into something where the 5th or 10th draft of that is great. That might happen. But passive voice is just sentence construction. So if you say the ground was covered with leaves, right? So the ground is the subject, and it's just sitting there covered with leaves. And then if you write instead, that's passive. The ground's just laying there covered with leaves. But then if you say leaves covered the ground, then the leaves are doing something. They're covering the ground. And you're conveying the same information, right? It doesn't change the meaning. But if you read a book and you read a lot of sentences like the ground was covered with leaves as opposed to leaves covered the ground, it will feel more dynamic the more of it is written in that non-passive voice. And if you don't believe me, you can write a big description and you can try it both ways. And you will. I never noticed this. I mean, I'm 52. I was 49 when I learned this, right? So it's not like something you instinctively know. But you write and then you're like, this isn't quite right. And then you rewrite it and it'll sound better. Almost always. Again, none of this is a hard and fast rule. You can use passive voice. But generally in your descriptions, the more you avoid it, the better it's going to read. Slightly better. It's not night and day, But that's my favorite example. You know,
Yeah, because it
Leaves cover the
uses
ground.
less words. It uses less
That's it.
words. So yeah, if you've got this long thing to read, you know, a report, especially if it's like a report or something you don't feel like reading, you know, it's you know, it's just more concise, so less words to say what needs to be said. But then, and I think like fiction or something entertaining, it just helps the ideas come through more, you know, more clearly, I think.
It's like punchier, but it's subtly punchier.
Yeah.
But that's what you do, Dan. You write your book, or you write a few chapters, and you get other people to read them. And if you get skilled writers to read your stuff on your Discord or whatever, and they'll say, you know, if you rework this sentence, it'll sound better and it'll be punchier. And then you sort of learn, oh, if I make my, because I mean, I had a ton of passive voice in my first version of Wistful Sending when it came out. I'm sure you'll still find some if you look through it, right? I'm sure I missed places, but it was a lot. And I learned this idea, and I was like, oh, and I rewrote the book. But all I have to do is rearrange those sentences. I didn't actually move anything. Like, it's not that hard. So, well, I mean, you know, it's
Sounds
not like
hard.
it's not like moving chapters around. You just go through it. You know, the sentence doesn't have to change its place in the book. You're not like moving it to the end of the book. You're just kind of rearranging some words when you have descriptions. And I don't describe a lot, so that makes it easier.
Yeah, go for it.
What about you, Varsha? Are you going to write something?
Sorry, I'm keeping myself muted because I'm on my laptop's mic and I'm worried noise will recover. But yeah, I've been working on stories in the writer's battleground. Actually, I have written, what is it now, 6 short stories, and it's been a lot of fun. And yeah, I've been learning a lot. And I don't think any of the stories are really very good, but it's a draft that I can work on later on. So.
Yeah, that's what I think is great about the Writer's Battleground project is it's like just developing ideas, and then we can come back at the end of the year and see what we've got. So maybe we'll have like 5 or 6 different short story collections come out.
Yeah.
The page-turning project. So
We should publish it.
cool.
I hear anthology.
We should self-publish it.
Yeah, I think that'd be cool.
Writer's Battleground, Volume 1.
That'd be cool.
Early days.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So with all these rules of what to do and what not to do, why do some books make it? Why do some books become so popular when they break all these rules? Something like Malazan, where they dump you in the middle of all this madness. And why do some books end up? Is it just because they have a following, or what? Is it a certain thing that they do to make it good, or why do some books that break all these rules become like they're a genius instead of just like this person's an idiot? Like, what's the line there?
I'd like to touch on this as the consumer.
Yeah.
I love shit that breaks the rules. Give me something different. That's why I love fantasy. Because there's so many different avenues you can go. You know, yes, we do have these tropes and things like that, but there's just so much more room to write something that I have never experienced before. And I think when I read something that this is unlike anything that I've ever experienced, such as Malazan, I'm like, where the hell am I? What's going on? But, you put your trust in Erickson and he brings you around, and, it's just, it was something different. As a consumer, as somebody I can't stand action movies of the same stuff that happens over and over and over again that doesn't seem, real to life. I want something new, something that I haven't experienced before. And I really dig when people, take a chance and jump outside that mold.
Mm-hmm.
But for every Dan, there are 10 non-Dans. Because if you look at the most popular like genres, they are very consistently following the rules, which is romance. Right? Where you don't, most romance novels are not breaking the rules. They're doing they follow a very like close formula. They have to have a happy ending. The ones that break that rule, they don't do well. And those outsell fantasy by a large margin. And even if you look at Malazan, you compare it to Patrick Rothfuss or like George R. R. Martin, the sales are not close. Like it's nowhere near as popular in terms of total sales. And those guys broke some rules in their own way, but people like familiarity and they like rule breaking. It's not necessarily the same people. So it's
That's right, different audience.
Malazan is nicely written. It's just it breaks some of the suggested rules, like dumping you in head first, right, without a lot of explanation. But I wouldn't put that on my list of rules to explain everything up front. I don't do it. I don't think I dump you in as hard as Malazan does. I don't know that anyone does it as hard as Malazan. but like this whole I had to fight with my first editor about that. She wanted me to explain a lot more in early chapters, like with the info dumps, and I was like, no. If Erickson can do it, damn it, so can I. She's like, who? She was a bad editor. Well, she wasn't good for me. It was sad. That's another story. It's not my current editor. This is years ago. But yeah.
I think there has to be, and it's different for every reader, but there has to be something in the books that break the rules that is enough to pull that reader in. Because like with Malazan, the first book, it was the mood and the atmosphere, and Dan was the young boy or adolescent, and so I was able to like say, okay, here's a character, I've kind of got a handle on this character's here, I don't know what's going to happen to him, but mostly I love the mood, which is I was going to get this sense of this mist with the sun, the mist blocking the full strength of the sun, and just kind of fires off in the distance. I always kind of get that feeling when I'm reading Malazan, and I like that, and that's kind of what pulled me along for a while. Is I want to figure out what these people are doing in this atmosphere, that I'm resonating with. So I think that's one thing, but I'm also in a book club where we vote on the books we are going to read, but a lot of them, the other book club members want happy endings. So yeah, I have read several romance novels, and we look for the better ones, and there are some good ones, but yeah, definitely there is an audience that wants humor and to find something to feel good about, because I think it's about anxieties, it's about this world can be grimdark in real life, and sometimes people just want to escape, and but I'm more on the grimdark side than the romance side, but I'll read them. I'll read them, that's okay.
I guess it kind of comes down to, or go ahead, Varsha.
Oh, I was going to say, one of the answers I've been hearing to that question is the marketing budget that publishers put into books. I was watching a panel yesterday of a bunch of South Asian authors and how publishers invest in various stories, and I think it was fairly eye-opening. But also, I think some other authors mentioned to us that they were publishing at the same time as the more popular ones that we're aware of, and what seemed to have made a difference for them was the marketing budget. Am I echoing? Sorry.
Good.
No. Okay. Cool. Okay. Yeah. Because I can hear my voice back because I'm wearing earphones. But anyway, yeah.
I can't believe they didn't invite me onto that panel. I was so disappointed.
Thomas, what was your marketing budget? How much did you? What marketing firm did you employ for your launch?
Who's your publicist?
Yeah.
I saw this big bearded asshole drinking a beer and had him take care of it.
Is there a mirror involved?
Possibly, probably. Yeah. I think he might have thrown like $20 down on a Facebook ad or something. It didn't do any good.
Yeah, I think those ads are kind of tough because you're kind of throwing it out on social media, and instead of like targeted, like for book readers, it's hard to. Where do you advertise if you want to reach readers? Like, if you want to find people who are open to it, rather than just any random person who may not be a reader. Like, how do you find them? Or how do you market to those people? It's tough.
Yeah.
Definitely tough. But as far as like romance being popular, isn't it kind of like pop music? We talked about earlier. It's basically the pop music because it's fairly predictable. It's you kind of know what you're going to get. It follows a certain formula. Not that there's not good romance books out there. Just I think it's like you could say like other genres of music are kind of more they try different things, but romance there's a certain path it follows, I guess you can say. So kind of the same thing. It's more accessible.
My favorite romance is Mickey and Mallory from Natural Born Killers. I mean, they did it differently, right? That was a romance done very differently, and I enjoyed the shit out of that.
Yeah.
Like
I've never seen that movie.
You're serious?
I'm serious. I need to watch it. Yeah. If you ever want to talk about
watch it like tonight.
it, if you're down to talk about it, we could do.
Yes.
We could do something. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Go see that movie. It's Oliver Stone, I believe.
Yeah.
It's very good.
It's a feel-good romance.
Woody Harrelson in his heyday.
Yeah.
Oh, I think who's the comedian? Never get no respect.
Rodney Dangerfield.
Who's that guy?
Oh yeah, Rodney Dangerfield.
Rodney Dangerfield's in it. Yeah, there's some great players in that one.
Okay. Yeah, we'll plan something then.
Yeah. That sounds
Definitely.
good.
Yeah. So, are all of you familiar about the strikes, the writer's strike, and the
Yeah.
how long do you think that's going to last? Because I see it lasting for quite a while.
I actually do too, because this time there's really something on the line. I mean, sure, every strike, there's something on the line, but this is, I don't know, I feel like there's an AI tsunami coming, which, sooner or later will overtake whatever they're standing against, but I do think it's a worthy cause. And I think it is important for creative people to, ask for legal restrictions on how AI is being used in their field. So, but we're just at the kickoff of this, And even recently, I listened to. Do you all know who Sam Altman is? He's the, I guess, the CEO of OpenAI ChatGPT. And so there's like this 3-hour congressional hearing that he was at, so I listened the whole 3 hours. I listened while I was taking a walk. So he's advising that, AI needs to be regulated as well. Now, I don't know if that's a business ploy or if he really means it, But he is saying he's concerned that things could go off the rail with AI type programs if there aren't regulations. And but one of the things he mentioned was jobs, and they did. What I'm getting to is that the senator or congressperson from Nashville made a very strong statement about, she wants Nashville to stay Nashville, which is just a wonderfully creative place. And if AI is now going to be writing all the songs, or I think she used Garth Brooks as an example, if you could make up your own song and now have Garth Brooks' voice sing it, what recourse does Garth Brooks have if it's just something that was pulled off the net, the internet? How could an artist protect their voice or their image if it's just pulled off the internet and into one of these programs? So, but I was really glad she spoke up, and I forget what he answered, but he's trying to play this balance between, of course, wanting OpenAI to succeed, ChatGPT, but he wants it to succeed, but he is cautioning about things getting out of control. So, and that's when I was like, is he trying to get all the good stuff and then say his competitors are out of control, or is he sincere? And he's from St. Louis too, which is where I am now. I'm like, St. Louis? St. Louis has produced this. So, I don't know. I don't know where we're at, but in regard to that strike, I definitely think they have a point, but I'm concerned that the movie and sound industry is going to change. And writing and art. But we just have to keep pushing back somehow.
I see it lasting 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
Because the studios have all the leverage. I mean,
yeah.
I think
unfortunately.
I heard something that I don't remember who was being quoted, but one of the studio executives or something like that basically just came right out saying, we want to just make this go on until people start losing their apartments and starving them out, which is the general way that they do things. I just don't think I'm used to them usually being so blatant about it and just saying it to the media. But
it's like racism, right? Just keep it inside.
Yeah.
And then you come out and say, okay.
But it's the few things I've been listening to, a few podcasts and stuff where they bring it up, and they've also had the support of the what are they called, the Teamsters and everything like that. A lot of unions are joining in solidarity, which is awesome. So people are helping, which is good to hear. But I think it's an important thing to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
What's weird is that the people running show business don't seem to believe that the best way to make money is to produce a quality product.
Exactly.
Somehow in their minds, these things are dissociated. That they think that to make money, you just have to kind of get lucky or hit the zeitgeist the right way. They don't actually believe that a quality product is going to actually make them. And it's so unfortunate that people running the business who don't, books even aren't run that way. Not really. But Hollywood is they think about it. What are the numbers if the top executives in Hollywood took a 2% pay cut, they can meet the writers' demand. So it's something like that. And they think that's not worth it. They think that they're better off not taking a 2% pay cut and holding out for a year. That's crazy. But don't you want your writers and your actors to get really well paid and live like happy lives and have plenty of leisure time, and so they're in a good mental state, so they, they're producing great stuff for you so you can make more money. Like,
Right.
that's how capitalism's supposed to work, but somehow it doesn't. It's very strange. I don't understand it. But I've seen so many movies where the writing is so terrible, and I'm like, I could have done better, and I'm a nobody. And I'm like, how could you not have found some way? It's not even like it takes millions of dollars to find someone who could have done a better job. It's like, we're all over the place. But you didn't bother? That's so weird. I don't know. I don't get it.
I agree.
It's weird.
I guess they're thinking that if they keep doing remakes and reboots, and I mean, could AI do that for them? Do they need? I mean, if that's their goal is to keep rehashing things over and over again, or
I mean, the ones that do well have good twists, have good modern interpretations. They do it in a quality way. The ones that are hack jobs actually don't seem to do that well.
is it quality now or quantity? Because you look at the box office of the last, ever since the pandemic, what movies have really made a lot of money? There's not too many. A lot of them are flopping. So you think of a platform like Netflix, they just produce a ton of content. Most of it's not very good, but there's a ton of it. So how long will it take you to get through it? You get on Netflix, it's overwhelming how much stuff there is to watch. You're never going to get to it all. So is it more about quantity to sell, like to promote their like the streaming service, or is it about these big blockbusters that, I mean, are movie theaters going extinct?
I mean, this is America. It's quantity over quality. Always. Look at McDonald's and everything you see out there. Look at, I mean, are they really gonna make a fucking Fast and Furious 19? Like, it's coming, guys.
Yeah.
It's coming.
What would we call that? 19 is a hard number.
Yeah, 19's a tough one, right? I think that's like, is it 1X? Is that what a 9 is?
Yeah, and I would be XIX.
XIX. They could figure something out to throw.
Has a ring to it.
Name in there. Tokyo Drift.
Fast and Furious, old enough to drink in Canada.
Yeah, Beijing Drift or something. And this is it's sad for me. This AI thing is really sad. Like, how much more is creativity going to be diminished from us as a society? So let's look at schools. Are the music programs gone? I was in high school. There wasn't no music program in my high school. There was, we had gotten a radio, which was kind of cool. But, all these things are being diminished. Even with music, nobody's taking time to play a good, mean guitar anymore. We have electronic music going on, and now we have, where is the dedication to a craft, the imagination? It is being stifled out in more areas than I can even imagine. We look at AI, like, how is AI going to benefit human society moving forward? From what I'm hearing, it's only going to hinder us. And, we need people out there with thinking minds. You're going to take writers. You're just going to regurgitate things that, these programs have already seen. And where is our innovation? What is, these sci-fi writers, we have them because, we might need to use them sometime down in the near future. You know what I mean? We might need to live on Mars at some point. And it's just an absolute shame that this is allowed to happen. And I just don't see too many people. I'm sure there's something out there that I'm missing where, art in particular being created by AI, I believe, is just going to, have a negative effect on everyone.
I completely agree. And I'm actually facing that this fall because I teach college writing to college freshmen. And at the end of the spring semester, I spent a lot of time because essays kept getting flagged for AI, being AI generated, but then come to find out sometimes they were using Grammarly, and Grammarly has like a AI plugin now, and it's just like, so, but I do think tackling it head on is important, and first of all, we're going to be doing a lot more writing in class. I do that anyway. We write in class all the time. But now, a good old-fashioned 1970s in-class essay, is going to be what I grade, because at the end of the day, I still want to just do my duty and make sure, they can write. But at the same time, we're going to use ChatGPT. I'm going to print out an essay, and we're going to critique it together. And I've asked Chat, I've done it. I've done an essay on ChatGPT, and I asked it for sources, and it gave me, one of those long spiels about I'm a language model or whatever, and I don't have sources because I've, whatever. So it couldn't give me sources, So I think all of that, I think that's the way to help people start realizing, at the end of the day, even if you use this for your job, you still have to be a thinker and make sure what it's produced is actually, what you want to put out there to the world. You're still responsible for it. But it's a balance. If I could take it all away, I would. I'm not a fan at all.
I hate to sound like, get off my lawn, but I think we've gotten to the point as a society that we've gotten used to technology making everything convenient, making everything easy. Everything's on our phones. I mean, everything is on this little thing in our pockets. We've come to depend on technology so much to make our lives easier, and every little shortcut we can take, we take. So I don't think most people really care that AI is going to have this damage on creatives and people who put in the time and love and their blood, sweat, and tears into creating things. And I don't think most people understand how much goes into it, or they just want whatever spit out back to them that they want to consume. They don't care where it came from. They just want more and more and more. And if it means that they get it faster and more often, then they're fine with it. If it puts someone out of work, or someone who writes or who directs, or a sound guy, or someone who edits, or the hundreds of people who work on movie or TV sets, they don't care. They just want it. Give it to me. I want it. And on to the next thing. Maybe I'm jaded. I don't know.
I don't know. I think we're going to go through a curve, and with some Darwin Awards, unfortunately, where people, believe too much in it and have it blow back one way or another. So I'm not like a big dreamer, but I think that, hopefully at some point we'll come to some kind of balance. But I do think it takes creative speaking up, and I think it'll come out in the quality. I've read so many great books. ChatGPT could not have created those books. Now we're in the future. So.
When it's just regurgitating a bunch of things that have been programmed into it, like writing and stuff needs that human element. It needs that emotion and stuff that an AI can't develop. So while it will just throw out the everything that it's absorbed through previous whatever's been input into it, it won't understand it. It won't understand what any of it means. It just throws it out there.
Yeah.
I mean, the people it's going to hurt, in the short term, are me and Thomas. Because the basic problem we have is some people will pick up our books because they've heard a review from someone who's actually read it, and that's great. But a lot of people are just scrolling through pages on Amazon. They see a cover that looks vaguely interesting. They might read the first page, they might read the blurb, and then like, oh, that sounds good, I'll try that book. And they pull it down, they buy it, or they pick it up on Kindle Unlimited. The problem is ChatGPT can make a book that looks nearly as good as anything I can do at that level of examination. Because you remember, once you've bought it and read the whole thing, oh, that was actually crap. But you don't know that until you bought it and read the whole thing. But just from reading the first couple paragraphs and from reading the blurb and looking at the cover, someone basically in a writing mill can use ChatGPT to chunk out books like that look nearly as good as what we can do at that level of examination. And they can like write 10 a day. And if someone's writing 10 a day and I'm writing 2 a year, I don't know what Thomas is writing, but something like
Far
that.
less.
Okay, but I mean, just like on volume, all of a sudden, instead of he and I competing against a certain number of books on Amazon, now we're competing against 100 times as many that look at a cursory glance to have the same quality, even though once you dig in, they won't. So what people are going to need is they're either going to stop buying, or they're going to need new tools of discovery. You need a new method to find, because you can't, all of a sudden, 10, 12 years ago, you probably could just go through Amazon and like find stuff that looked interesting, and most of it was probably decent, and that number's been declining as more and more people write and self-publish. Many of whom have no business self-publishing, right? But with ChatGPT, those people are just being able to chunk out so many more books. But if you like derivative stuff, maybe this is going to be like a wonderful thing for you. You can write your own, whatever, just by putting some stuff in a prompt, and it'll pump out a derivative, like, write me something that's Cradle, but it's not quite Cradle. And maybe you can get that from ChatGPT. That's what the industry's hoping, right? They're hoping that people write their own romance novels. You just download ChatGPT, you pay them a fee, and then you put in your own characters and like your own basic, very loose prompt, and then it pumps out a book and you read it. Right, that's their dream. They don't want people like me and Thomas taking any of their money. Right, so these people who are creating these programs, they want they want it all to themselves, and that's how they get it. They get readers to buy it directly, but none of it will be good, for exactly the reason Thomas just said. An AI doesn't really understand what good is, so it can't pick. It can't say, oh, this is actually good and innovative, and this is innovative and crap. Because not every new thing is good, right? A lot of times you break the rules and you just make it worse, But a human breaks the rules and looks at it and goes, "Oh, this is better this way," and they can give something that Dan will like, even though he's left us. But an AI can't. It can't figure out, oh, this is a break that actually makes things better. It only knows what the rules are.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be bad for me, me and Thomas, in the short term, and for readers. You're gonna potentially just be faced with reading more bad stuff. Sorry, I'm a downer.
This makes me think we almost need to have now guilds where writers and artists and musicians have some way of proving that it's their own work. I mean, that's the other hard fact, that if, now, like we've seen on X, formerly known as Twitter, that an author will post a book cover and it turns out to be AI generated. And I'll be honest, I have no more interest in that book if it turns out it's an AI generated thing. But then the other complication is that sometimes the writer doesn't know. I mean, they get, led on by somebody who's using Midjourney or something and saying that they're an artist. So I would almost want some kind of, guild or something where people are like, I'm going to join this and somehow prove that my writing.
Amazon doesn't care. Amazon doesn't care if I put an AI cover on my book and it sells a bunch of copies, and Amazon gets their 30%, right? Yeah. So they're not going to enforce it. So and people aren't going to look, if I put a little guild, little foil stamp on my webpage that says, I promise, and I don't use AI, that's not, I mean, I don't know what you call AI, right? I don't use generative AI on any, I pay my artist to paint my covers. But most people don't care.
Yeah.
Most readers don't. And Amazon, if Amazon enforced it, that would be a different story. But that whole cover art thing with Spiffbo was such a fascinating debacle. With I forget the guy's name.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know,
I
the
think
cover won the cover contest, and it was an AI, and people were like, "That's AI." And then Michael Fletcher had paid the same artist to do a cover for him. He was about to do the reveal and release the book, and he's like, "Oh, I don't want to do that." Nothing against Michael Fletcher. I mean, he was tricked by I would have been tricked too. I would have had no idea. If it were me, I wouldn't have done any better. In his shoes, and he had to scramble for a cover at the last. You got a nice cover, I think.
Yeah, it's a cool.
Yeah, it's a nice one.
It's easy when you're. Well, I don't know if it's easy. I'm sure it's easier when you're Michael Fletcher, but to find artists. Yeah. So I don't know.
It was a cool cover too. Bob the Wizard, MV
I
Prindle.
like the AI cover.
Yeah,
Sounds
so did
cool.
I thought it was gorgeous. The Bob the Wizard cover.
It won the contest.
And
If
then
I were a cover artist, I would not be happy about that. Right? Like on a whole different level. Like
Yeah.
that's got to be a very unpleasant feeling. That an AI, not only did it do something, but it beat you.
This has repercussions across like the art world, museums even. I mean, art galleries, independent galleries. I mean, of course, the writing as well. But I bet something develops because as a consumer, I'd be looking for, I'm going to be looking for the books that, are as much as possible guaranteed to be books written by, live human authors. So
I have the typos to prove it.
yeah, I prefer to see typos, so.
You should read my books. You will be well rewarded.
I've made note, actually. I have made note to do that, so.
There's a marketing scheme I haven't thought of before.
Like typos, read my book.
Yeah, like type. Yeah. Too many errors to possibly be machine generated.
Yeah, there you go.
Non-edited, yeah.
No, I have it. That's the sad part. This is with editing.
Oh. Yeah, I don't know.
they start doing this with audiobooks.
Yeah, they are.
I bet
are.
that's going to happen, I think, before people really start writing whole books with ChatGPT. They're going to use audio narrators. Google Voice. Think about Google Voice, right? That it uses to run your car stuff. They can read books. They're really close, and then they're already offering that to authors. If you sell your books on Google Play, which is a very small book sale platform right now, they will let you sell an audiobook at basically no cost, which is read by their technology. And if you compare that to if I want an audiobook where a narrator is going to cost me $3,000 for a decent one, not a great one, not a famous one, but for a decent person you've never heard of, who's good, really good, but not going to bring attention by his name, it's $3,000, right? So I can save $3,000 by going on Google Play and letting an AI read the book, and it's going to be, I bet, worse, but not crazy worse. I don't have a number, but I bet within a year it's going to be 85% as good. Maybe it'll never be as good, but it's going to be ballpark.
Well, I'll say if they switch it to where Snoop Dogg can be my narrator on every audiobook, I'm going to purchase that.
Better.
Snoop
We
Dogg's
can have
just a
Snoop
dope
Dogg.
narrator.
Snoop Dogg can read all the male voices, and we can have Martha Stewart reading all the female voices. Like the tech queen,
Dude,
right?
let's get this idea together. Let's pitch this.
Yeah. People and your audiobook can be cheap, because Audible's expensive. You're paying quite a bit. I think my book, on Audible, if you just paid cash for it, it's something crazy like $25, which is not a price I set. They don't let me change. They don't let me. I don't have no input on that. So yeah, you could, which is more than a hardcover.
There's a lot of people I see on, booktubers and stuff. They're like, yeah, I love to immersion read, and I'm just like, where are you making all this money?
Oh
I
well,
see your bookshelf. It looks great. And you've also bought the audio book to go along with the hardcover. You know,
we
that's
send them.
crazy.
We send them, Dan. If you have an Audible account, I can send you a code for Wistful Ascending.
For
We get
what?
code. We get codes. If you have an Audible account, I can
I
send
do.
you a code. You can get Wistful Ascending for free if you want the audio.
You know what, so this is something new for me to do. I've been doing audio while I work. And is it first person or is it third person? Your book,
Wistful
Wistful.
Ascending, it's third.
It's third?
It's
Okay.
all third. Yeah.
I've been
No,
getting used to first person and being able to comprehend what's going on. Because I'm a new audiobook user, but yeah, I would love that. If you hit me up and send me the code, I would love
you have a U.S.
to
Audible
immersion
account.
read your book.
You have a U.S. Audible account, right?
Yep.
It's a different code if you're U.S. versus U.K. And if you're in Canada, I can't give you a free book. I don't know why. That's just how that's how ACX works. If you're, I'll hit you on Discord after.
Yeah, man, please. I would
No
love that.
problem.
Yeah.
No problem.
Hmm.
But that's how they get them. These people are, most of these booktubers aren't buying all of these. They're getting. They shouldn't. Okay, this isn't me bitter, right? Please don't misunderstand, right? I send anyone, like any booktuber, I send them the book, right? I'm like, if you're gonna review it, like here, just take my book, and I'm not, that's how it's supposed to work. But I'll send them an Audible code as well. The ones in Canada, it's a different story, or outside for some, I don't know why.
Yeah, I don't understand.
Joe, you had a live person read your books.
Me?
Yeah.
I paid a narrator, a guy named Wayne Farrell, who was
Yeah.
phenomenal. You go on ACX, you set up a thing, you put in like a little, like a script, like a 4 minutes worth of your book, and then a bunch of people read it and send you audio files. They audition like you're running a movie, and they send you and you pick, and then they all have different prices, and then you send them the book and they read it and you edit it, and So I'm only my first book though because it's expensive. I mean,
How was that experience? Having somebody read your book in the voice that you projected for your character.
He did a great job. It was never quite. There's no way he could match the voice in my head. Because my main character's voice in my head is just me, and no one else is going to pull that off other than me. So I found it very awkward, and I'm not an audio book consumer. I listen to a lot of podcasts and stuff, but I don't listen to audiobooks. So I think I would have enjoyed it more if I was in that world, but I didn't love it. But it opened a lot of doors. A lot of booktubers, a lot of influencers were audio only, or I would get to the top of their queue because it was an audiobook when they're like, yeah, if you send me a physical book, I might get to it next year, but if you send me an audiobook, I can get to it next week.
Oh, wow.
So that happened to me a lot. So I got a lot of people listening to it who otherwise I wouldn't have happened. I haven't sold enough to even come close to making back what I paid. I haven't sold enough audiobooks. I never know how many physical books I sold indirectly because the audiobook exists. Right? So the audiobook might have gotten someone to read it, and that person might have put up a review, which might have gotten me 10 sales. I wouldn't know. Like if those sales were of the physical book or of the the ebook. So you never really know. But it was weird. It was interesting having someone to read it. I don't know that it was, I don't know. People, everyone has experiences different things about, when they're excited about. There's something like they get the physical book in their hand. They're like, "Oh my God, that was the moment I felt like an author," and I'm like, "It was okay. It was nice. That didn't do it for me. I'm waiting for my. I'll really feel like an author when I get the Bollywood call that they want to do the adaptation, and they fly me over to New Delhi and Mumbai, and they put me up in a hotel and introduce me to some people. That's when I'll feel like I've made it.
So you have to tell me what your dream casting was. I think you mentioned in one of your videos you know which Hollywood actors you
I
want to
have a
cast.
few.
No, sorry, Bollywood.
I really think Ram Charan would do a fantastic Rohan.
Mm.
For the love interest for Tomorrowland, I always wanted Ronnie Mukherjee because
Oh, nice.
right.
I like her.
Yeah, I love her. Like, yeah, yeah. The others, I don't know. I don't know if there's anyone to be a particularly good bear, you know. So I don't think about the other characters in terms of the Bollywood casting. Yeah, that I don't know.
So do you watch
There's a few other
Bollywood?
actors. Sorry,
Do you watch Bollywood with subtitles, or do you
me?
speak? Yeah.
Oh no, I'm completely white. I don't I speak 50, I speak like 30 words of Hindi maybe on a good day. No, I watch in subtitles.
You watch
But
in subtitles. Yeah.
But it's very interesting because the country was colonized by the British. There's a lot of English used in the films and all the media. So if you listen to like Bollywood music, there's a lot of English mixed in there, and the movies they use a lot of English, and they use it in weird, interesting ways to punctuate conversations. So if someone's really serious, they really mean something, and it's really important, they'll slip in English to say. Like you'll often see a guy will go on and on in Hindi, "I love you." But the "I love you" is in English because it's like a little bit. It's almost like it's because, and this is terrible, right? Because of the history of colonization, it's almost like a little classier to say it in English, a little more upper crust, a little more education to say it in English, and there'll be whole plot lines about who speaks. And you watch Happy New Year, Deepika Padukone is always going on about how much she loves any guy who can speak English, and she gets weak in the knees. So whenever Shah Rukh Khan does something piss her off, then she's like. And he's like, oh, wow. He just speaks to her in English for a few minutes, and she's like, I forgive you. Which is hilarious. But excellent movie, by the way, Happy New Year. Everyone should watch it. Every New Year I watch that movie. But anyway, yeah. So I've watched a lot of movies, but I like that the English gets thrown in there because it lets you pick up the words around it, and you watch what it says. So it's kind of neat. That's my thing.
Tell us what was your audiobook like, because you have an audiobook for Stone and Shield, right?
Yep. I actually had a much easier time of producing my audiobook because a very good friend of mine was getting into wanting to narrate audiobooks, so he did the narration for it. And we haven't talked much about the second book yet because right as it was coming around time for that to be a thing, he had a baby. So he's busy.
That's tough. I thought I saw that with Legend of Lattes, I forget his name.
Travis Baldree.
Travis Baldree was saying was talking about how some AI narrators are kind of coming up. So I don't know.
Some AI narrators. You mean?
I guess there's some services that are offering AI narrators that you can sell them your book or give them your book, and they'll pump out an audiobook in, I'm sure, a few days. Or I'm not sure. I'm just assuming, but I'm sure the turnaround is not very long.
Actually, vision impaired people have used some version of a screen reader or book readers. But now, last semester, I noticed somebody was using an app called Speechify, and it does have all those different. I mean, you could have a British accent, or you could have, I think Snoop Dogg was on there too. But you could have like, I can't remember the names now, but well-known people, those voices, and I wondered how they got those, come to think of it. Or just like a general American accent, male or female. So it's I think it's good for those, if you need it for reasons of, a disability. I mean, I could see that kind of app would of course, be helpful. And I think what used to happen, they would just have people read, and you'd have tape recordings of people reading like fiction books, and you know, for the hearing impaired, for the vision impaired, I mean. But now there's kind of that crossover. So I guess I'm saying, I think that should be available for people who need it, but then I don't want anybody else. I don't know, I don't want to displace human narrators. And I'll always look for the human, narrator.
But that makes it tricky, right? Like I have a good friend who's blind. He does not like the speech to text. It's very mechanical. It doesn't sound good. He has to sit by his computer to use it. It doesn't work on his phone. And he's read Wistful Ascending, and he wants to read the others. And he's a buddy of mine, right? Like, I mean, he's a booktuber. He does analysis, and I'm really interested in what he has to say about the book.
Mason?
No, Raf Blue Text.
Oh, Raf. Oh, okay. Oh, gotcha.
But and I can't give him Return of the Griffin because I can't afford the audio. And part of me is like, it's an accessibility thing, right? Like the choice isn't, do I hire a human narrator or do I save money? It's, do I get him an audiobook or not? Because right now I just can't afford a human narrator. And I don't know, what would I be okay making it like, to getting an AI and doing it if they could do a good job and giving it away for free with the ebook? I'd be fine with that. Even if I didn't make a penny off it, I'd be fine. I'd be perfectly thrilled to have that available, to people. But if you suggest this on a writing forum, people get very upset. Don't ask how I know that. but it's to me on some level. I'm not saying I have the answer. I'm not saying it's okay. I'm saying it's not so simple as to just say it's wrong. Because again, this is an accessibility thing. Right? It is a complex, nuanced discussion. I don't have the answer. That's all I'm trying to convey. I'd love to have Raf read my books. It's a mortgage payment per book.
Yeah.
But having readers for visually impaired folks has been around, for decades,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's interesting. There's the writing community, but then there's the accessibility community. And I think it's becoming pretty common in the accessibility community, and I don't begrudge that at all. So,
and it's not hard to imagine an author being able to sit down with a bunch of tools and a web page and go, okay, I'm going to pick a voice for each character, and I'm going to put a little note on the text. This is the person speaking, and here they're angry, and here they're happy, and whatever. And like the AI would, you put that emotion into it wouldn't. That technology can't be that far in the future.
Yeah.
To make that possible. Is it ethical? That's a whole other. That's the tricky part.
Yeah, ethically, I'd rather have the human narrator.
I would too, but a mortgage payment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, that's right. I mean, that's the issue. So.
Yeah.
I guess it exists. So how can we use it in the best ways, but also responsibly? But because it exists, it's out there. It's not going away. So it's tough to know what to do with it and to how to deal with it. But I do think there is a chance that it'll start pumping out so much content that people will get tired of it and want to go back to the good old days when humans wrote books or humans wrote scripts or humans directed movies or whatever. So maybe that'll happen too. There'll be like a backlash from it, that there's be so much content that it doesn't have that human touch. Because those imperfections are what makes things special, I think. Like those typos that you mentioned, it's kind of like, I don't know, there's something about those imperfections, whether it's in art or paintings or drawings or whatever. Those imperfections are what makes it special. It's not perfect. That's what makes it good. That's what gives it that human element. And maybe we'll get to the point where we crave that, where we want that back.
I think we will. I really do. But I do think there'll end up being some kind of balance. But I think there'll always be that desire, you know, to hear from a human.
I don't know that AIs will ever replace Travis Baldree. What they will do is very soon be able to cheaply replace bad narrators. Or maybe even mediocre ones, right? That's people are still going to want the premium product, and because people really love Travis Baldree's narrations, because he's puts.
I think we're a few years away from not knowing whether or not something is human or not. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe. But I think those imperfections are what's going to set it apart. Because this isn't a spoiler, but Dan may attest this, or Thomas, I'm not sure if you finished the second Apocalypse, but like the last 2 books didn't get edited. Yeah, there's typos in it, but I didn't care. Like, it's fine. Like, it didn't bother me. There's other books that have typos that, no big deal. I don't care. Like, it's, you know, I might let the author know, hey, just there's a comma here, or there's a space here. I don't care. It doesn't bother me, but I think that's what makes it kind of cool, is to see those things. I don't know.
I think it's kind of funny too, because I never cared about typos or anything like that getting through. It just doesn't bother me. But I will hear it often as a way to, like, people condemning self-published books because of typos and stuff. I've read a ton of professionally published books with plenty of typos. It happens. Oh, yeah. But people don't usually really bat an eye at that. They just think about the self-published aspect. But,
sometimes I think that's more about, you know, I also think from the gatekeepers, I guess I'll call them, you know, that's also about maybe losing revenue or just control of, you know, readers and the market. So I prefer self-published, and I really wonder, going back to Hollywood and all of that, I haven't watched a lot of indie movies lately, but I think I'm headed back that direction. You know, maybe it's time for people to stop depending on Hollywood and make their own low-budget films. A good story is a good story, you know.
There's at least one indie producer that has come to terms with SAG, right? A24 or something like that. Someone basically, because I mean, SAG is saying you should have this contract, right? But there's at least one indie producer that said, okay, yes. And actors from SAG are allowed to work on their movies now. Like, they're not striking against them because they said yes to all the stuff, right? The Hollywood people, you know, the movie producers aren't all in one unit. They're all individual groups. So, yeah. It's be interesting. Maybe if this thing does last a year, indie movies, come on, watch our movies. We're the only ones that are out. We'll see.
Yeah, and why not? You know.
Yeah.
So.
That's the only way the studios will get out of the equation, is to create your own and it's scary. I mean, but if people are craving content now, especially if content's going to slow down, then it's a great time to do it, to venture out on your own.
But if anything, that should happen in book publishing before it happens in movies, right? Because you can put out a book nearly as good as what, like, Tor can put out with very little money up front. It's not hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. But to make a movie that's as good as, like, Avengers or something is not easy. Right? That's just a much bigger project. So hopefully it happens.
Hopefully.
It's just hard. I don't know.
Have you noticed AI in your line of work, Varsha, like with your in your profession? Have you noticed a lot of AI being incorporated?
So I'm a software engineer, and there's a lot of hype around, oh, ChatGPT can write code for you now, and interviews are so the way interviews are done for software engineering jobs is we're given a problem to solve, and then we have to write code for it. And there's this website now that has a bunch of coding questions that you practice on, and then you can crack most interviews if you know the answers to most of those coding questions. And so there's this interesting conversation around how people say, oh, ChatGPT can solve these interview questions now. And instead of questioning the interview process, it's ChatGPT is smart as a software engineer and it can write code, which I think is bullshit. Yeah, there are some things that it can do simply. There are some repetitive tasks that we do that ChatGPT can spit out code for, and we can use that code, sure. But in a lot of ways, I think coding is, forgive me for the comparison, but I think it's like writing. You can clean it up and like make things pretty and write good code, design good code, and make a good solid system. Or you can just write whatever crap ChatGPT spits out and make something work. So yeah, like it is sort of, there are conversations around, no, ChatGPT is going to replace programmers, but I hardly think so. I don't think we're anywhere near there. I know Joe's also an engineer, so what do you think, Joe?
I agree. I hope ChatGPT can replace our managers.
No.
I think that they're much
Oh yes, that I'll take ChatGPT for my manager.
Every time we should use ChatGPT for these coders. Maybe you should be replaced first. We'll end the conversation right away.
That's interesting to hear because my younger son is going into software development. So he's halfway through his degree, and he loves coding. Yeah.
That's my day job.
Yeah.
It's a question. My other son is going into music, so he's a composer. So yet again, AI is rearing its head. So yeah, these conversations have been going on with us. But I heard that, like the ChatGPT coding, I heard it's since ChatGPT right now is still like, what is it, like a beta model or something, and it only goes through 2021. Like on some updated codes, like it's not going to account for codes that have since been revised or updated. Is that right? Or if we're now in 2022?
Yeah. I think so. I seem to recall that being a thing, that its corpus is up to date as of 2021. And I think that also leads to this larger question of like, if you have a lot of art and literature and code that is largely produced by ChatGPT, I think we'll hit a point of cultural stagnation, no? That things are only as good as what the corpus was at a certain time. And everything we're producing from then on is by AI, and you can try to feed it back into itself perhaps, but it's only ever going to be as good as what was produced that year.
It's not even that. It gets worse. When you feed ChatGPT output to it, it gets worse. And I think they keep finding lately that ChatGPT is getting worse at doing certain tasks than it was a month ago. Because it's feeding on itself. It doesn't really understand what the right answer is, so it's just taking averages. And the more crap gets put in there, the more crap it outputs. It doesn't know the difference. That's where it's not a person. And I think it's getting like worse at solving like basic math problems. I just read this headline like a couple days ago. I didn't dig into it too much because this is one of those other apocalypse things where I'm just like, okay, all right. All right, AI is the new thing. All right, what else is going to kill me? 96 out. I'm just going to have another beer and not think about it too much.
It's hard to keep up. Yeah.
Yeah.
And with music, I mean, we talked a little bit about music and AI, but there's Pro Tools. I mean, we talked about having, like Danny mentioned, like no one like plays guitar like they used to. They don't have the, it doesn't have that same soul, like for like pop music anyway. Because you compare pop music to like the '80s and compare it to it now, it's totally different. I mean, there was a lot of variety and a lot of different things going on. Even if it wasn't good, it was still different. I mean, it was still a variety in it.
It wasn't good. 80s pop music was the best.
I mean, there was some good. There was some alright stuff. You know, there was some hair metal in there too. So gotta. They can all be winners.
My live theme song is "Everybody Wants to Rule the World" by Tears for Fears. I've got it on my ringtone. But anyway, the point is, Tears for Fears came through St. Louis a couple of weeks ago, and there was a huge crowd, and just to be in a huge crowd of people who enjoy live music, and the musicians are playing their instruments, and singing. I mean, it was all live, and it did kind of run through my mind, will we see this in 30 years or whatever, but it was a great experience, and I think now sometimes, and I'm not knocking it, but there is a lot of EDM, electronic dance music, and stuff like that, and so, which some of it I like as well, so I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying it's a different experience. Yeah, it's a different experience.
Even like pop music now, it's all cut and paste. I mean, you can cut and paste a riff in Pro Tools and play it over and over again and create a song with 30 seconds worth of music and create a 4-minute song out of it. Go ahead, Thomas. I'm sorry.
No, I think, I don't know a lot about how the AI aspect is affecting music right now. I know a little bit, and I don't think of it in the same way. I don't look at EDM or anything like that. While I'm not necessarily a fan of that, I don't look at that as being part of the AI infiltration or anything like that. I think that what they actually have happening with AI now is where it's you input a genre and style and it tries to mimic actual instruments and actual people at times too. Whereas EDM is its own thing. It is that, it's a genre, and there's people that like it and that people that don't, but it is its own form of music. Whereas AI music is just trying to clone something else, basically.
You're reminding me, I'm having friends who've sent me Sinatra singing Michael Jackson songs, and various politicians singing, various songs, and
I suppose this could bring us into the whole weird thing of the hologram, having holograms of dead musicians playing shows and stuff.
Yeah.
I would love that. Bring back Stevie Ray Vaughan for me, please. Let me go see a blues show.
That would be that would be tempting.
B.B. King.
B.B. Albert. All the Kings. Freddie King, B.B. King, Albert King. Throw all those blues guys in. Just give me a whole show of good guitar blues, electric blues. That would just be awesome.
Give me Miles Davis.
I grew up loving the old stuff, and getting older, you got to go to a show. Bob Dylan's playing. I can't wait to go see him. You get there, and he sounds like a frog that just got jumped before he came in to play. He sounds so bad. You don't go to Dylan to listen to. You listen to his lyrics, not him. You know what I mean? He's a lyricist, but I went to see the Stones, and fucking Mick Jagger totally forgot a whole frickin' verse, and he stuttered during it. I think his father had passed. The show got postponed, so obviously we gave him that. I mean, he was like 197 too. So he gave, he let him pass. But yeah, I liked all the old people, But bring
The fact
Tony
that they're
Bennett
still
back.
they're still alive. I mean, think about the role. Like, how are they still alive? Really? I mean,
They're on the steel wheelchair tour right now.
Drugs will kill you. Sure they will. Sure.
Yeah, right. Look at my man Keith Richards, bro.
Yeah.
I'm a
Looks
thinking
great.
You want to live forever? Start snorting coke now. Not medical advice. I'm not an actual doctor.
I wanted to apologize to Thomas for all the music recommendations and all the Bandcamp.com purchases. Yeah. So many bands.
I like going through there once in a while, but yeah, you've just stumbled across too much, and I'm trying to buy a house.
Yeah, it's bad news.
I just got my line editor into Bollywood music, so I started quoting songs, and she started looking them up to make sure I was spelling them right, and then she started listening to them. Now she's like, now I'm watching all these movies. What happened? What did you do to me? I'm like, I'm sorry. She watched the Doom series. Varsha knows what I'm talking about. Because I referenced Doomachali in a paragraph, like just that the song was ending as the next thing, and she's like, now I'm watching these movies. Well, I don't know what happened. Okay. Just converting the world one line editor at a time.
Thanks. So Varsha has lots of stuff coming up. Want to hit on that before we wrap up, but you have the Malazan group read coming. Prince of Nothing.
Yeah, Prince of Nothing.
You have the new series.
We've got the sci-fi masterworks in progress. I've started Bright Threads in the Tapestry. I've been planning that series for like 4 months now, I think, or 3 months. So I started that, and I think that's everything. Oh, Perdido Street Station, but that's on Angela's channel.
Oh, when are you doing that? My wife just bought me that book.
It's good.
So it's on, we're starting in August. We're reading 100 pages a week. And I believe the first discussion is for...
The 12th?
Yeah. And I think Angela was looking to see if there were more people interested in joining the discussion. So if those dates work for you, Dan, I think you should join us.
Yeah, I'm down. When do you say it's going to be next month?
Yeah, so we're reading it over 2 months. It's an 800-page book, so we're doing 100 pages per week. First discussion on 12th for the first 200 pages, and the 26th for the next 200, I guess. That's chapters 1 to 14, and then something else. Oh, I'll message you on the page shooting forum.
All right,
Okay, I'll
that'd be
tag you
great.
on
I'm interested, man. Dude, Malazan's kicking my butt. It
That's
really
what
is.
book are you
Like,
on?
I'm in Memories of Ice, and I started it in March, late March, right? I read 100 pages. Then all of a sudden, I was like, "Ooh, let me get in on this readathon," right? And they're like, "Well, you got to start today." So I was like, "Dude, I'm in Memories of Ice. Do you understand? I'm not gonna put this book down." And they're like, "No, you have to start on April 1st." And I was like, "Fine." I put it down. I got through the month. I picked it up, and it is it's a chunk. I read Malazan slow because I hate this. I'm always like, dude, did I miss something? And I'm just like, no, why don't I just keep reading? Everybody's like, oh, they have this outline you can go check. I'm like, I think the outline's going to ruin my experience because I could just wait and then I'll be like, oh, wait, I didn't miss something. Here it is, 3 chapters later,
Or 3 books later.
Yeah, or 10 books later.
Yeah. But yeah, just keep reading.
Yeah, that's I would tell everybody your first time, don't use anything that's out there. Unless you finish the book and then you're questioning something. Go check that out. But I mean, this is I'm a newer reader really within the last 4 years. And Malazan is just wow. It's just the scope. I mean, if the word epic, had a picture next to it, it should be Malazan. Because every time I read it, this is epic as it comes. I mean, that's a good and a bad thing because I'm just like, oh my god, like, how is this gonna converge? Are you gonna give me the answer? Did this dude just ascend? Tell me. Just tell me if he ascended. I don't want to read 3 more chapters to find out that yes, he did ascend, and you were right to think he ascended during that time.
Not 3 chapters. It's like 3 more books.
Yeah.
6 more books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the other series.
Yeah. We're going through all of them, I think, right, Varsha?
Yes.
Yeah.
We should talk about that at some point, like whether you guys want to read them in publication order or take breaks or whatever. But yeah, I'd like to read all of them this time around.
You're going to do the Esselmont books too?
Mm-hmm.
Varsha, when is the first discussion?
We haven't scheduled it yet.
Oh, okay.
But I was thinking sometime September.
Oh, okay.
I just started The Crippled God. I will finish it in August. Yes. I just started. I feel like I'm not going to be able to put it down once I like really get into it, but there's a few things I want to finish reading first.
Real quick, Varsha, when are you guys doing the Prince of Nothing reread?
That's also in September, right,
I
Steve?
think so, yeah.
You're gonna do September because I got a bunch of people that I said August 1st actually, but I'm gonna tell them all that we're gonna do it in September. I got a lot that I need to get read. That I have a lot on my plate.
Yeah, it gets busy for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're kind of letting Varsha finish The Crippled God, and then we'll kind of go from there. But
Yeah. When I get halfway through Crippled God, I'll start threads on the forum to schedule the first few discussions.
nice, good stuff. So yeah, time flies every time we all get together. But before we sign off, Joe, can you tell us where to find you and where to find your work?
Me, JCMBerne.com. My YouTube is at JCM Berne. And let me try something. Can you see something?
No. Neither can anyone else.
Sharing your screen.
Sorry, I thought that might work. Yeah, JCMBerne.com. I'm on Discord. I'm on Twitter at JoeBerne1. I'm on Blue Sky, and I'm on Twitter. Jeez, what the hell? Something wrong with me. I'm on Blue Sky as I think JCM Berne. I'm consistent. I'm me everywhere, so that's something. I'm on Facebook more often than I should be. I'm on Discord a lot, and yeah, that's more than enough.
Nice.
If you haven't had enough of me by then, something's wrong with you.
Wow.
That should be my tagline, right?
Sounds like a lot of work.
And I've got a new book coming out on September 12th, and arcs are going out mid-August.
Nice.
Book 4 of the Hybrid Felix, which has a kick-ass cover that I just tried to show you and it didn't work.
Oh. Yeah.
It's got dinosaurs on it. It's
A
awesome.
man punching a dinosaur.
Dinosaur.
Nothing
Yeah, I
else.
saw it on Twitter today.
If that doesn't sell you, then I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's all hopeless if that doesn't work. Yeah.
I give up. You're not my target audience.
And Thomas, tell us about the Fall of Emeros.
The Fall of Emeros is an epic fantasy series that is borderline grimdark, at least as of the first 2 books. It's probably leaning more towards grimdark as it goes on. It's one of those series where I break one of those rules and there's about a dozen or so POVs. And the 3rd book should have come out about a year ago, but I'm working on it, and once I'm in a more stable living situation, I'll get back to it. But yeah, look it up on Amazon and give it a read. It's following a mercenary company as the empire crumbles around them.
Cool.
I have a Twitter and a Facebook, and I neglect both. I haven't blogged. I have not updated in a long time. But I go on the page-chewing forums often. And that's the best way to contact me.
Nice. And I will link your Amazon for your books down below. And I can say the book one, I think I would classify as grim. People die. that I didn't expect to die.
I love that when people die.
Yeah,
It's
people
like my
die.
favorite.
A lot of them die.
Yeah, I was really surprised. Some really good characters too. So good stuff.
Thank you.
And Varsha?
Oh, my YouTube channel, Reading by the Rainy Mountain. And I hang out on the page chewing forum a lot.
And Layla?
Mostly on X now.
Mm.
And I know I still can't, I cannot wrap my head around it. And just reading, just reading and writing and doing my thing.
Nice. Teaching?
Teaching.
Lots of teaching.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that too. Lots of different irons and lots of different fires. So.
Yeah. Keep it
But
interesting.
It's fun. It's fun. It keeps things interesting. Yeah.
And Dan?
Yeah, you can find me on the Black and Blue Collar Reader. I am an acquired taste. You can find me on Facebook at Dan Elliott. Just search Dan Elliott, 2 L's, 2 T's, how it's supposed to be spelled. I do have a Discord. It's called The Unexpected Party. I'm always on there. Hit me up if you want to chat. I love talking about books and bullshit, And you'll see me in comments on other people's channels and in all the Discords and things like that.
Very cool. Yeah. We'll have to talk to Afterborn Killers soon. We'll figure that out.
I'm serious. Go watch that movie.
Okay.
It's good. It's good.
Okay. And Joe, you can also find Joe on YouTube at JCM Berne channel. Really great stuff there too, so everyone go check that out.
Thank you.
Yeah. So thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll see everyone next week.